The opening weekend for DC's Blue Beetle has seen it dethrone the mega hit that is Barbie, but with only a $25 million debut, things aren't looking good. Now this result is actually worse than what we saw earlier this year with Shazam! Fury of the Gods. As we can see, that took $30 million in its opening weekend, and the overall summary of that film is that it only took a worldwide box office of $132 million, and that was on a budget of, production budget of $125 million, and then obviously then take into account all the marketing stuff and everything else on top of that, it was a very big flop. And as we can see with Blue Beetle, it's got a similar production budget of $120 million, but unlike Shazam! Fury of the Gods, it's come out during August, which is always a bad month for films. It's known as the leftover month for summer blockbusters, so you get a lot of the crap basically. And it's also come out during the strike, so they can't promote the film, which for a film like Blue Beetle, which doesn't have any major stars in it, it really could have used that. And so it's really having to rely on word of mouth. And also it's got that same issue as Shazam! Fury of the Gods and The Flash, where general audiences aren't really sure what's what in terms of the DC and the universes going forward. They're not sure if this is in the new one or if it's not. Now James Gunn has said it is as part of his new DC plans, but it's still got that confusion, so people aren't really going to fork out the money to go to watch this film, and it probably will get quite a lot of interest when it comes to streaming, because as we can see with the Rotten Tomatoes scores of 76 for the critic and 92 for the audience score, it's actually been well received. Now, due to timing, I haven't had a chance to say my own thoughts on Blue Beetle, but I think this film is very much a mishmash of other comic book films we've seen before. Like, the plot has many similarities to Iron Man and of course the suit as well, and there's scenes here where you think to yourself, I've seen this before. I've seen that in Black Panther, I've seen that in Spider-Man, and I've seen this sort of tone with Spy Kids before, and I actually thought that was a positive of the film because it was a bit different there. A lot of DC films you feel like they're the same sort of thing, but this did give it a little bit of an identity, and this film really does focus on family, not like Vin Diesel and Fast and Furious, but it really is about the family. And there were some good moments with the family. You do get to learn about the characters, and they have some great individual moments as well. For example, in my screening, George Lopez as the uncle got a lot of laughs, and I think he was funny, but at the same time he did become a bit overbearing. I think they did force him into the film a bit too much. And the same can be said for the social commentary in this film, which involves racism towards the Latin community. And the film's villain, who's played by Susan Sarandon, she gets the bulk of these scenes because she is a full-on racist, and she even goes full-on Mr. Burns as well.
What are you talking about? Don't really make sense, man. Shut up. I can't understand a word you're saying. You're just babbling into
My name is Homer Simpson.
Now, I'm not against this sort of commentary being in films, but at the same time, you got to have a touch of finesse, otherwise it can dominate certain portions of your film. Now, what we saw with the Barbie movie, for example, that did conflict with the plot, I believe, but as here, I don't think it did do so. So credit to the film for that. It did stay on track pretty well. However, with the nature of this film feeling so manufactured from old ideas we've seen before, when it came to the emotional scenes, they didn't really hit me because they were so easily predictable. Now, I thought they were all well done. I thought the cast was good in these moments, but yeah, it just didn't really hit me, so I couldn't really fully get emotionally invested in the film as much as I would like to. Having said all that though, Xolo Maridueña as Blue Beetle is one of the best things about this film because he is such a likeable presence. And he's shown that before in Cobra Kai, where he plays the character of Miguel and he can lead that TV show, and now he's shown here that he can lead a big comic book movie. Unlike with The Flash, the film's effects are pretty consistent and decent overall, and as this film is about family, I have to mention the character of Nana because she had some great moments. Although they do maybe conflict with the main character's motives, they still were pretty decent, and they did remind me a little bit of the character from Madagascar, where the old lady takes matters into her own hands, because that's exactly what she does here.
Oh! Lady, what is wrong with you? Oh! Get a grip on yourselves, people!
You're a bad kitty.
Now, in my last video, which focused on box office results, we talked about Elemental and how that was fighting back after a pretty slow start. Now, could that happen with Blue Beetle? I don't think so. I don't think there's enough going for it. If Elemental had the whole summer to go for, so it had that window, I think with Blue Beetle, September, there's a lot of different films coming out, lots of films like The Expendables 4 and The Creator, lots of different kind of films. I just don't think Blue Beetle's got the legs, unfortunately, for it. But we'll see see how the drop is next week. I think it could be quite a big drop, but who knows, maybe Blue Beetle will get a surprising push from somewhere, but I just don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately, for the film. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on Blue Beetle. What do you think of the movie? Did you enjoy the movie? Like, you know, Rotten Tomatoes has a good audience score and a good critic score, so what are your thoughts? Put them in the comments below. And also, if you want to watch another video on screen right now, there is a video which YouTube are recommending for you, and I bet it's something, let's say, pretty good.